Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ryan, the Productivity Doc, with productivity tips for healthcare professionals to help you stay on time, get more done in the day, avoid burnout, and have more time for the important things in life. So, this is my sixth video or fifth video, I believe. And I've already spoken about time management and energy management. I wanted to focus on concentration management because obviously, as a healthcare professional, concentrating and making sure that you are focusing on the right things at the right time and not getting too distracted can obviously be very, very important, both in terms of getting things done, make sure you're not missing anything important, and also just getting through your day with minimal frustration and whatnot. So what's the problem here? Do you find that your focus is often all over the place? Do you find that your phone is constantly dinging off the hook with random notifications that you don't need to know about? Are you constantly getting called on the overhead to go and talk to someone on the phone? Is your staff constantly knocking on the door or walking by and starting conversations while you're in the middle of a chart and distracting you? You find that it's really quite difficult to get back on track after you've been interrupted. So if you do, I would say that you have a problem with your attention or your concentration at work. And I'm hoping to talk about some ways of managing that and hopefully making things a little bit easier. Because when your attention is all over the place, it's almost like you almost wire your brain to have like a form of ADHD, which is not super helpful, if you can imagine. A lot of people, when they do get interrupted, they find that they have a real hard time getting back on track afterwards. And there's actually been studies that have shown that when you're sort of in the zone focusing on things, if you get interrupted, it actually takes you up to 23 or 26 minutes to get back into that level of flow and to be able to really focus on things. So if you're supposed to be seeing another patient every 10 or 15 minutes, that can be really quite challenging if your flow is seeing patients regularly and you're being interrupted left, right, and center. So really finding ways of managing the interruptions can be really, really quite helpful. So what can you do to sort of help to manage interruptions? Well, probably the lowest hanging fruit in this respect would be, if you notice, and I'm sure almost all of us have smartphones. You're probably watching this on a smartphone right now. But whenever you download a new app or even the apps that come with your smartphone, unfortunately, the default mode for these is to turn on all notifications for you, which means you get dings all the time, because the app's updating or they want to sell you something or something else silly like that, right? So what I highly recommend is going into the options setting of your phone. Usually the icon is gear. And if you go to notifications, you can actually run down that list and turn off all of the notifications that you do not need. Like, you don't need to know that, Instagram is updating its files, or Facebook is sending you something about a video that you don't care about, right? And I would recommend just turning off everything except what's essential. Like, usually, for me, I leave on the alarms because I use my phone as an alarm clock. I leave on the instant messenger. I've turned off my email so I don't get dinged with emails, because I get about 10 emails a day, right? So if I got a ding each time I got an email, that would be incredibly distracting for me. So I do highly recommend being very, I would say, ruthless in how you're turning off your notifications. Really just have notifications on there for what you absolutely need. The other thing that I would recommend, especially because, if you're checking your emails regularly and you get something that looks urgent, or maybe it's urgent to another person, a lot of the times that just kind of throws a monkey wrench in your whole day, right? So what I usually recommend is, instead of checking your emails regularly, check it once or twice a day. And you may even want to have a autoresponder whenever someone sends you an email saying, sorry, I'm very very busy seeing patients in clinic, I can really only check my email once or maybe twice a day, right? So if it's something urgent, give me a call, let me know, right? And this way you can sort of put aside a little bit of time, maybe a half an hour at lunch or half an hour at the end of the day. Me personally, I check my emails once a day, and I use inbox zero technique, which I'll talk about in a later video, to really keep my email inbox empty and really put the the emails that I need to deal with into the next action folder. If I don't need to deal with it, but I might need it in the future, I put it in reference. And that really helps me manage my emails in a much more reasonable way. The other thing is um, people coming up and talking to you in the office. And I'm not saying that you should lock yourself away and be a hermit, but if you're busy working, it is helpful to have a door that you can close so that people sort of realize, hey, this doctor is busy. Let's not bother them unless it's something really, really quite important. I know I used to sort of chart out in the open, and you'd be busy doing something, and someone would come up and say, "Hey, how's it going? How's your weekend?" Blah 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 blah. And by the time I was done the conversation with them, I had no idea what I was doing, right? So it just almost wipes your mind, right? So I started charting in a room. I keep the door closed. If someone really needs to talk to me, they can knock on the door, but you don't get the, hey, how's it going, when you're in the middle of, charting a complex patient interaction or sort of reviewing labs and whatnot. So the other thing that can be helpful too is making guidelines for your staff. If you find that they're often coming knocking on your door for typical things that they deal with all the time, sometimes you can have sort of like a standard operating procedure. Like you got someone with a urinary tract infection. Now our office has standing orders for this kind of thing, but I imagine not everyone would have this. Someone was calling up with very typical UTI symptoms. Treat them with macrobid or Septra as long as they're not allergic or there's no interactions. You might want to test then, or you might want to test if they're not getting any better. And if there's certain issues there that are a little bit more concerning, then they can bring it to your attention, or just go ahead and book an appointment. That way they don't need to come knock on your door every time someone has a UTI and bother you with it. There are other aspects as well too that can be really quite helpful with that. Third or fourth thing that can be really helpful with that is, if you do find that your staffer is knocking on your door several times a day, maybe you're in with someone having chest pain and they're knocking on your door and asking about a script or something like that, you could either have them send you a regular message that you can get to if you're able to get to it by the end of the day and answer them back, or you could also talk to them and just say, hey, let's regularly have maybe a 10-minute meeting at lunch and a 10-minute meeting at the end of the day, just to hash out these things, just so that you're not being interrupted during important clinic time. And I think that that can be really quite helpful for people. So in terms of other things that can be really helpful for attention management, I know I'm guilty of this myself, but you know, um, sometimes avoiding some of those attention sapping apps during your clinic day, like Instagram or Facebook, YouTube. It can be very easy to go down the rabbit hole with these. You say, hey, I'm just going to take a minute, take a look at something, and then 10 minutes go by, and you're like, oh, where'd my time go? And the patient's upset because they're waiting, and then you're behind time and whatnot. So most of these smartphones have a focus mode. If you find that that's a problem, where basically you go into a focus mode, it really only lets you use certain apps during that time, like your phone if you need to call people on your cell phone for telephone visits. And that can be really quite helpful in terms of managing your attention and keeping you from getting into trouble and getting out of focus with things. So again, like I said before, if you guys find value from this video, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm to get the message out to as many people as possible. If you have colleagues that you think would benefit from this, let them know about the channel. If you have any suggestions for future videos, comment in the comment section down below. Or if you have some suggestions on how I can improve things, comment down below as well too. And if you want to be notified about future videos or have it come into your YouTube feed, subscribe down below. You may want to hit that notification button Although after this talk, maybe you don't. I don't know. It depends on how important these are to you. Just so you know, I'm going to try to do my best to upload every Saturday or Sunday. Maybe just make it part of your weekend routine if you find that that my information is really quite helpful to you. So, and I always like to give a tip for something you can do right now. So probably, if you do have a lot of notifications bothering you on your phone, go ahead, maybe right when you're done with this, open up that little gear options thing, go to notifications and turn off as many as you can and see how your next week goes. All right. Anyway, this is the Productivity Doc bringing you productivity tips to help you out with your practice, help you get more done, and have more time for the important things in life. I wish you the best in your upcoming week. Talk to you later.